Hi guys. So I wanted to talk about rejection therapy. I also have teeth strips in, so I might have a little bit of a lisp while I am speaking throughout this episode. I wanted to talk about rejection therapy and primarily where the line kind of sits between desperation and I guess embracing taking action. Because for me, I've always been someone that is very forthright in what I want, and I had never really seen an issue in going after that in any description, whether it's like a job or a friend or like a romantic interest. I really don't care about rejection. Like, I've really never been someone that the worst they can say is no. Do you know what I mean? And I've never really had an encounter that's proved me otherwise. Sure, like when I was in school, when I was younger, a lot of people, I guess, probably found me a lot, like too much. And I think because I went to school in an area where I think nonchalance was an indicator of coolness, like niche reference, but the emotion ennui in Inside Out 2, that is what everyone in my school wanted to be like or was trying to be like. And I've never really been someone that prides myself on not caring about things. Like, I think that's stupid. And I think as the, social zeitgeist has moved in the last, 10 years, authenticity and caring about things has become something that has maybe moved more into the mainstream, and now being nonchalant is, an internet term for, grow up, But I find myself feeling torn recently between, it's like, how many no's can you take? And I actually made a podcast last night, but I am not going to post it because, I make a lot of podcasts that I don't post. That I do that just purely for almost therapy reasons. I think it's a good way to help me understand my thoughts. And sometimes when I listen to myself speak, I realize that I'm really clung onto one specific thing, and then I can kind of, it's almost like pattern recognition, I can identify parts of my thought process that aren't as clear. Anyway, that's irrelevant. I'm not going to post that episode. But in that episode, I was talking about how I live on the Gold Coast and I'm no one's type. And how, to me, that has never really been something that I've acknowledged or cared about that much. And then this last week, I really don't know what's gone on in the stratosphere in the last week that has made me have all these realizations. I know we're on the last full moon of the year and things like that, so everything kind of is wrapping up and coming to a close. But I don't really believe in the typical Gregorian calendar anyway. I typically try and do all of my New Year stuff by the astrological New Year, which is in April. So it's very strange to me how this year I feel very closely connected to finality and endings. And kind of a sidetrack, but I think it will link in at some point, so just bear with me. Me and my friend are doing this challenge at the minute because she really struggles to put herself out there. So we came up with the idea that every day in December we were going to speak to someone new, start a conversation with someone. But we thought we're probably going to get stuck in a rut of just saying, hi, how are you? Or, saying the same thing every day. So we thought, okay, every day we're going to do a different letter of the alphabet. So I didn't really feel like I needed to do this for myself. Like, I felt like this was more of something to do to help her, and I was just kind of doing it as, like, you know, it's fun when two people do things together because you can kind of talk about it and whatever. And today was letter F. And it's been going really interesting. And I've noticed while doing this that even I, as someone who, and all my friends can attest to this, I am someone who doesn't struggle to put myself out there. I have no problem taking initiative and kind of, I will speak first. Like, I have no problem with that. But I've noticed how much I struggle just striking up a conversation with someone on the street. And I think I didn't realize how much this challenge was necessary for me. And it kind of makes it easier because when you have a letter to go off of, it's kind of like, well, there's only really so many things you can say within that letter. Like, how do you approach someone starting with the letter B? I just shouted at someone, beautiful shoes. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not not really getting anywhere. I don't know. I started off by just kind of shouting at people in the street, and I realised I wasn't getting myself anywhere. So I've started actually having a conversation with people, and it's really difficult. Like, it's really challenging. But afterwards, I feel so fulfilled, and I feel like I've really, like, put myself out of my comfort zone. And it's got me thinking over the last few days, like, I guess maybe about my social recognition, about, like, knowing when someone wants to speak to you and when they don't, because I've always struggled to kind of acknowledge, I guess, social cues or social understanding, and knowing when someone wants to speak to you, or knowing when someone is even, like, interested in the conversation that you're having, or knowing when, like, kind of they want you to, like, leave them alone, and, like, things like that. Like, I've never really been great at identifying that. And I feel like throughout this challenge, I'm slowly, like, kind of figuring out more about that, because I guess, like, I'm putting myself in the position to be turned down. Whereas I guess maybe before, as much as I would say I was a social butterfly, I was kind of only going off of, like, warm leads, you know, whereas now I'm effectively cold calling people in the street. I'm just not asking them to buy anything. And it's really refreshing. Like, it's quite daunting and it's quite scary, and it makes me really uncomfortable. But I know that that's something that is always an indicator of growth, you know? Like, being uncomfortable in an experience doesn't make it a bad experience. It's like, it's just a marker for an area that you're not familiar with yet. And for me, striking up conversation with people on the street is clearly something that I'm not as good at as I thought I was, specifically on my own. Like, when I'm with friends, it's far easier because you kind of have the ability to walk away and be like, oh, well. But when you're on your own and you just have to kind of walk away and go back to what you're doing, it's weird. And there's a level of, I don't know what it is that makes me uncomfortable. I think what it is the addressing them part is fine, but it's like the waiting for the reaction. Whereas I think where I would address people before, it would very much be like a statement. But one of the rules of our challenge is that we had to ask someone a question, because we thought we'd, like, you know, get in the rut of just being like, hi, or all right, or, like, you know, something like that, where it wouldn't be, it's easy, like, it's kind of like a scapegoat. So asking people a question is far more daunting because you're opening yourself up to them being an actual person and having an actual personality and engaging with you. And I think it's far easier to go through your life thinking that other people are kind of just Sims. And I think I find that so much easier as a way for me to boost my confidence, is thinking that no one else is thinking about anything ever, so they wouldn't be making a judgment of you. Because no one wants to think to themselves while they're, about to approach someone, this person's going to have thoughts and feelings about this interaction when they walk away from it. And I guess maybe that's rooted in a level of ego for me, is that, okay, well, if I just pretend that no one else is going to think about me ever, I'll be fine, and I don't have to deal with the fact that someone might not like the interaction that we've had. Unless it's like, someone I see on a regular basis, or someone that I know, or someone that has kind of, to me, like, it's like, when you see someone on the street, you kind of, I guess, you're not thinking, oh, what are they going through today? What did they deal with this week? Like, you don't think about these things. And when you strike up a conversation with these people, you realize, like, I struck up a conversation with someone today in a coffee shop, and he was like, oh yeah, this is my local. And I was like, this is my local. Like, and you would never realize that. You would never know. You just see someone in a shop, and then all of a sudden it's like, we both go to this place all the time. And you kind of learn things about people that I've just realized nothing I'm saying is really that interesting here. Like, sorry, I do this to myself quite often. I can't realise that I'm talking about something and then realise that it's literally just common sense. But I feel like it's something that I'm really glad I'm doing this now at 23. Because I'm hoping by the end of this challenge that I won't ever be scared to approach someone again. And I guess I didn't realize how much anxiety, it's not like anxiety disorder anxiety, but I didn't realize how much, what's the right word? How nervous I was about speaking to certain people or addressing certain people. And the experience that I had today is one that, my letter today was F. And the experience that I had today was one of those that you would never normally get the chance to have the experience of. And if I wasn't doing this challenge, I would never have done it. And it was kind of like the perfect time and place to be able to execute it and to do it. And it wasn't, it was scary, but like, it wasn't a big deal, like it was just like a normal thing. And I literally walked away from that interaction shaking like a leaf. It sounds really dramatic, but it was just, I was also violently hungover, which didn't help. And I also said to this person, oh my God, we have so much in common, let's kiss. Not sure where that came from. Not my finest moment. Yeah, I think I was probably more embarrassed about that than the act of going up and speaking to this person. However, it kind of made me realise you can kind of just say whatever you want to people, and 9 times out of 10, they're never going to do anything about it. Like, they're not, like, I think in my head, you would expect someone to stand up and point and be like, oh my God, like, you're so weird. But I think it's like, the only real group of people that I think are going to do that is like 15-year-old boys. And luckily for me, I don't surround myself with any 15-year-old boys. But I think a lot of girls will relate to this, is like, I think a lot of us have been shamed for expressing ourselves in any description. And I'm actually thinking I might make a podcast with Ellen about this, because she'll have a very different perspective to me, or maybe more similar than I'm thinking. But I think a lot of girls carry with them into womanhood the experiences of being shamed in their teenage years or in their childhood years. And it limits us from, I guess, progressing in a way that would allow us to reach our full potential. Because, there's that whole thing of like, do one thing every day that scares you, I think that is something that is easier said than done, because I think knowing what to do every day, I think a lot of people don't know what scares them. So being like, do one thing every day that scares you is kind of vague, because I didn't know how fearful I would be, I think, to go up to people and just say something to them, because I am someone that is very extroverted. So God only knows how Ellen's feeling about this. Like, she must be really stressed. Like, but we've both come out of this. I mean, we're only like 5 days in, but we've both come out of this with really great experiences and really good stories from it already. Don't know how it's going to be when we get to the weirder letters like X and Z. Q, I'm not sure. I'll keep you guys updated. It'll be interesting. Maybe I'll do like a wrap at the end of the 26 days. Maybe I'll get Ellen on a podcast and we can discuss how it went and give you guys some stories. But I think one of the things that we've both discussed about this is the possibility of rejection in a place where you will see someone more than once. So she actually spoke to a guy at the gym. I won't go into this too much because I know if we do an episode, she'll speak on it herself. But she said she had anxiety about... I feel like I need to stop using the word anxiety because it's not like actual anxiety. Anyway, she was worried about speaking to someone at the gym because she was like, well, what if I have to see them every day and it's awkward? And I was like, well, what if you have to see them every day and they become a friend, Like, this is how people become friends. And she was like, yeah. And then like one day she didn't do it. And the next day she went and she did it. And then she saw the same person at a pub later that day. And then they like sat and had a drink together and it was really nice. And it's like, you would never have had that experience, like the butterfly effect. And I feel like you need to do, sorry, my thoughts are very scattered right now. Almost like doing it in a place where you're more likely to see that person again is actually probably more beneficial, as long as you're not like rude, or it's not like, I think as long as you're not rude, there's really no harm that can come from it, unless that person's rude, and then you can kind of just be like, oh, you're not a nice person, and move on. But maybe I'm going to make it a new part of my challenge to every other day, maybe not every day, because I don't have that many people that I see every single day. I work in an office with people that I know very well, so they don't even count. But every other day, speak to someone in a place that I go to frequently, like the gym or a coffee shop or like a food shop place. I don't know. But I think it's going to be a very interesting challenge. And I think in terms of the rejection therapy part of it, it just makes you realize that things aren't really that scary, even if you're scared while doing them, And I think it's definitely going to help my mental toughness. I don't really know what the point of this episode was, apart from me to just waffle. I guess that's like pretty much my brand anyway. Just chat shit. But yeah, my brain's turned off now, so I'm going to go. But thank you guys for listening to this. I'm sure this will be a part 1. So in 20 days, there will be a part 2. Thank you for listening. Love you guys. Bye.